It's Brad with College SportsCast, and we are presented by the Fanboys.
See how long it takes. See how long it takes. Come on.
All right, guys, I'm back. It usually takes me a second when I do all that. So it's a little running joke we have here at College Sportscast. All right, guys. So here at College Sportscast, we have a special guest with us tonight. We have Blake Lane with us from the UpTempo podcast, and we appreciate Blake being on with us. Hey, Blake, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I appreciate you guys letting me jump in here and join you tonight. I can't wait to talk about Auburn sports, the whole rundown. I'm extremely excited.
Well, so that's what we plan on doing since we have you on tonight. We kind of thought we'd go through baseball, football, basketball, and and just kind of do a rundown of Auburn sports and War Damn Eagle, I guess.
War down.
Since you hadn't.
Hey, I'm not. I don't say that too often. I'm not an Auburn fan. All right, but
so since we got started, since Jason jumped in right as we got started, so we got Jason down here. Jason is a former Ole Miss basketball player back in the early 2000s.
Love that.
Right.
So this is Jason Harrison. We got Blake Lane right over here. Yep, there we go. Blake Lane, of course. John Roberts, and then Brad Harvey.
Brad Harvey. Yep.
We didn't have the pre-show.
That's who we got on with us tonight.
But so here we are. We're here. Do it right here on the show anyway.
So Jason is he's having a little trouble logging on each time, and it lets him log on after I start the show for some reason, and that's the reason why he always is jumping in right as the show is coming on. So, but we can't figure out. I mean, I send him the same email that I send to John, and John doesn't have an issue, but Jason does, and I don't really understand what's going on with it. But
I don't know, man. Hey, but I'm just glad I'm back, man. I haven't seen you guys in a minute. It looks like I made a good show again. Great.
Good, man. Well, always. Just to give you guys an update with Jason is coaching AAU basketball. And that's the reason why he's been missing a few shows here and there with us. And, he's been in Dallas, I think, a couple of weekends and stuff like that and coaching AAU basketball. And that's probably going to go on at least through May, 1st of June, mid-June, something like that. AAU basketball.
Mid-June, I get a little break. I get a little break in June.
Yeah, I coached AAU basketball middle school, wasn't high school, it was middle school. But I did boys and girls for a few years down in Pensacola, South Alabama area as well. So just so you know, Blake, I lived in Gulf Shores for almost 6 years, 5+ years, 5.5 years. So I do have a whole lot of friends that are Bama and Roll Tide friends, both. I have both. Because I live down there, and there's actually – in Gulf Shores, because people move there from everywhere. There are so many. There's like LSU fans. There's Mississippi,
got a lot of LSU
Mississippi State fans. There's Auburn fans. There's Bama fans. There's Florida fans. Everywhere. I mean, it's just it's unreal down there. You will meet. Just a SEC school will meet fans of that SEC school down there. That's just the way it is.
You guys know that Mike Leach, he said that his favorite bar, his favorite place to go. They asked him in an interview. They said, "Give us one place that you could spend a weekend and he said, "I'm going to go down to Orange Beach, Alabama, and go to the Floribama." And so, and that was why he was at Washington State.
Floribama. I've been there several times.
Yeah.
I've been there. It's a cool place. Yep. It really is
a lot of fun,
and it's right on the beach.
That's a fact.
Yeah, right on the beach. Yep. Yeah.
All right.
That's right.
So when we get started
with
here,
John, we're going to
let's go ahead and get the most
baseball,
basketball.
basketball.
Let's go ahead and start with. Let's start with the most recent news with some of the basketball stuff. We got transfer portal news going on. Guys transferring out of Auburn. We can do guys, people that are hopeful for a bunch of people that are coming in, or that could come in because of maybe the mass exodus of North Carolina or of other places in the.
Is Walker Kessler coming back?
Yeah, there you go.
I wish.
You said North Carolina. It just made me say it. I'm sorry.
There's like 5 of them leaving North Carolina.
I know. I was just messing with you on the Walker Kessler stuff.
But we do have a few guys that are transferring out or put their name in the portal from Auburn. And Blake, why don't you talk to us about those guys?
Yeah, man. So today we find out that Yohan Traore is entering the portal. He was the 5-star recruit, was once headed to LSU to join Will Wade. Will Wade loses his job, and he commits to Bruce Pearl. And, man, let's be honest, things just never got off the ground. He just never found his role. And there was a couple times where he did get in this season, and it just looked like the lights were just too bright.
That's right.
It just looked like there was no confidence there. I'll be honest with you. The one thing that kind of got to me is when he would get in the paint, man. It's just like there was nothing there. Rebounding, like he just didn't want to body anybody up. He wanted to stay out on the wing a lot of the times, and then he started shooting a 3-ball, and I'm like, big fella, that's not your game. All right, you're 6'10", 6'11". You get down in that paint and you bang, and things just never got going. And then Chance, he got the knee injury. They went over to Israel and played there, and he was the highly touted prospect out from Arizona and everything, and he was the 4-star recruit, and he showed a lot of promise in Israel. And then he gets the knee injury right before the season. He has surgery, and then he just never got back right, man. And the thing that stuck out with me with Chance is when they played Memphis. Chance got a little run in that game, and you could just tell something was off, man. I don't know if the knee injury was still lingering, but he couldn't handle the basketball. His shots were just, man, he pulled up in the Memphis game and let go of a 3, and I thought he broke the glass.
I remember that.
Yeah, and I said,
that bad of a brick?
It was bad. And I said, hey, they need to sit this guy down. All right. They just need to shut it down. Something's just not there. And they do. Bruce sits him down. He's done for the year. He's not going to play for the rest of the year. And the weird thing that come out of Auburn this past week was that he was coming back. And BP said that he sat down and they discussed everything. And Chance said, hey, I'm going to come back. And then apparently from last night to this morning, he decides to transfer. So that one shocked me a little bit.
Especially after they had kind of said that he was coming back. That,
they released a hype video about it. And
right.
That's kind of what, he was riding the bike, and some people are saying he rode it straight out of town, so like
no chance.
I don't
That's right.
I don't really get it, man. Like I just don't. The transfer portal and NIL, did that really change his decision? Is he trying to go back out west, or is like I know Devin Cambridge
where's he from?
To Arizona. He's from Arizona.
He's
I
from
can see that.
I mean, Cambridge went out and played with his little brother. So
exactly, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I don't. It was just weird timing, man. But honestly, if you're an Auburn fan, I'll be straight up with you guys. Like, I'm not really worried about it because you got zero production from either one of those dudes, and so I think a lot of Auburn fans were putting their chips in the Chance Westry basket, and you you got limited production from him. Like, he didn't play the last 25 games, so I don't know
Well,
why you're
the
in such a panic attack.
the basketball world has changed a little bit, and you're going to have no matter what team you are, and no matter you're going to have a little attrition. As far as the roster goes, and more than likely, no matter what happens, you're going to have at least one or two players transfer out. And that doesn't, that's not a knock on anybody's program or anything like that whatsoever. Now, if you have a mass exodus, and you have 5, 6, 7 players transferring out, then you might have an issue. But, 1, 2, or 3 players transferring out is probably going to be the norm for most teams, I would think.
Absolutely. I'll be straight up with you. Adding on to the Chance thing real quick, guys, I think BP needs to attack the portal and find shooters. And I'll be honest with you, that was their downfall this year, was they couldn't shoot the basketball.
You just answered my question. I was just about to ask you, being that you've been so closely tied with the Auburn basketball watching, what was the main factor in this team's uneasy? I know me and John talked about it all the time, and I think you just hit it right on the head. That Auburn really couldn't shoot the ball.
Nope.
They really couldn't shoot the ball. Now, they can make shots, but they couldn't shoot the ball like those successful teams that they had in the past. And answer my question.
And that's the nail on the head, man. As you go from watching somebody like Bryce Brown and Jared Harper and Samir Dowdy. I mean, he was a special one, man. And one thing about it is like you look in the tournament, man, and you're always gonna see the Final Four teams, man. Look at San Diego State. What do they have? 6'4". 6'3". All right, their guards 6'4", 6'3".
Size,
right? Size, man. You look at Wong from Miami. All right, those guys down there, they're big, man. Their guard play is elite. You got to have guys that can shoot the basketball. And Wendell Green Jr., I love him to death, man. He's a heck of a player, but it's just.
The little Kansas State guard now made a heck of a run. Now you have to say that.
Well, I'm a little guard.
It doesn't mean that you can't be small. It just means that it's not going to be 100%.
I just wanted to throw that out there. That's all.
He did say Harper. Harper was a smaller guard.
He could hit from the parking lot. He could hit from the parking lot.
He was very elite.
That's the difference, is that he could hit shots from as soon as he crossed the mid-court stripe, that he was in range.
And I'm a fan, and I think me and John, because like I'm in depth of the SEC basketball, but he just didn't do it for me in the last 3 minutes of the game for Auburn. I always thought he was going to try to do a little bit too much, and cause Auburn to. I thought he showed his mid-major side of him by driving in a lot and trying to force and get fouls. In the SEC, you're not getting that. You're not getting that at all. You got to make. I feel like he should have made more plays. But yeah, man. Sometimes he was good, but a lot of times he was bad down the stretch.
Especially the turnovers and everything like that, because there was during the dry stretches that Auburn had, all those those 5-10 minute stretches where they just couldn't score a basket anybody, but he would have just some mind-boggling turnovers in that stretch as well. It didn't really help the fact that we couldn't hit a shot either. So it was just one of those.
You know, guys, like one thing that kills me with Auburn, man, is the final plays in games too. Like you know, look, we have nothing drawn up, and like all of you mentioned, the Wendell Green stuff. You know, going to the basket and everything, and then I forget what game it was, but he went to the basket. He pulled up and had like a little 18-footer, and he decides to fade away, and he just clanks it back iron. And then the Tennessee game, man, you got. You know, you take a three, like you settle for a three. Last year at Florida, they didn't even get a shot off, and you had Jabari Smith Jr. on your team. How the ball is not in 10's hands at that time, I have no idea. I just right now, man, there's some things that need to be addressed, and I think Bruce has to attack the portal. And I also think Bruce needs to find a way to keep Jalen Williams at Auburn.
Yes.
In my opinion, that is
you got
a
to
guy.
turn him into a killer. You got to turn him into an assassin.
And
he wants to give the ball up too much. He wants to pass too more. And I'm like, look, you got to take that shot. Just take it.
It's not his personality. That's the thing.
No, you got to turn him into an assassin.
Hey, but the old saying is, if you didn't bite as a pup, you're not gonna bite as a big dog.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes, man.
Right.
It's how it has to be in you. Great
Yep.
player, but then
so what's Bruce Pearl's class look like? He's got coming in this
one recruit. They have Aiden Holloway, the McDonald's All-American point guard.
I'm watching the game right now.
Yeah,
I'm watching the game right now. Trying to see. Yeah,
he's a dog, but that's why I'm saying that they have to go to the portal and attack the portal really hard, and get shooters, man. That's Auburn's. Look, you're gonna have Jonah Broom return. We saw what he's made of down low. Got to work on the free throw shooting.
Yes.
Oh
my God.
I mean, yeah, guys, I hear it, but you know,
that was a bad game, but the whole team was bad.
When a big is a bad free throw shooter, it's pretty hard. I mean, he might be able to improve by 5 or 8%, maybe if he works really hard.
No,
but
he is not Shaquille O'Neal with massive hands.
Yeah,
he is not that. He is not an overly big guy.
Yep.
Bigger guys are now shooting better more than ever, but he is about what 6'8",
6'8" or 9, something like that.
But
yeah.
I mean, he there's no reason you should have almost 10, 11, 12 missed free throws in a deciding.
It's about mechanics. You're a ball player, you know that. It's about mechanics.
It's about repetition. It's about getting your tail in the gym and shoot, because look, you can't fix nothing at 20, 21, 22. All you can do is get the reps up. How hard is it to go in the gym?
But you got to have the mechanics and then get the reps up.
He was the number one big man transfer
last
year.
Yeah.
He had to know he's not the most athletic. He has decent skill and a good touch, good footwork, going over that right shoulder. You can't tell me. And I know exactly, unless he stays off campus, because I've been down there. The gym is right across the street from where they stay. You know, I mean, in walking distance, there's no reason for him not, especially in the SEC now. They have these either him fingerprint or a key card to get in.
Yep.
I'm going to shoot. Hey, listen. I'm not going for that, Brad. He has to make free throws. When you're getting fouled at the rate he was getting fouled, he has to step. Now, I'm not just going to harp on him. The whole team.
Yep.
Gets free throws.
Yeah, I mean,
it
wasn't just Broom, that's for sure.
Just like it wasn't just Green, but those two players have the ball in their hands.
Yep.
At the end of the game, if you're not going to be able to make free throws or good decisions, you don't need the ball in your hands. And I can just only imagine what the Auburn faithful thought about all year when they lost those close games.
And you guys know You go back and turn the film on against West Virginia. All right. You lose a 1-possession basketball game. You have two veteran guys. You have KD Johnson step to the line. All right. He has a chance to sink both free throws to tie the game up. He misses. All right. Then you have Jalen Williams step to the line. He has the same opportunity. He misses. All right. Collectively, as a team, Auburn can't shoot free throws. And I told people when they made the NCAA tournament, I said, what is going to kill this team is free throw shooting. And you put up 41 points on Houston. That was a team that averaged. They gave up 55 points a game. Right? I know they don't play the same
first half 41 points. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know they don't play the same competition as everybody else, but to only give up 55 points a game in college basketball is insane. And you put up 41, and you come out and you make 4 shots in the second half. That's uncalled for. And then like we said, they started fouling Joe Nye just straight up. I mean, they were doing it on purpose at that point. It was
I mean, they were absolutely. They went to the line. They went to the line 25, 30 times in the second half alone.
Yeah, and you could see every time Joe Nye got fouled in the second half, his head just dropped, and he said, "Oh no!" All right, because now you go from playing in front of 9,000 people at Auburn. Now you're playing in front of 24,000 people so I mean, it's different, man. It's different. And Auburn has to collectively as a team, man, get better shooting free throws. And, and Jalen Williams, you got to step up and be a dog, man. You got to have that killer instinct. And I said it before the season started. My co-host Dustin, he asked me, he said, Blake, who's your guy this year? And I said, it's got to be Jalen. I think he's the best player on the team, but is he going to show it? And ultimately, down the stretch, Alan Flanagan is the one who showed it.
He's more of a dog. He's just I mean.
But now I think the Flanagans overall have all been like that.
Well, right, but he was more of.
It's just a trait they have.
That bulldog type player, and that's what he's been his entire career.
Yep.
I think whether he put the production up there or not, whether he had the points or anything like that, he still was always getting after it, and that's
no doubt.
Yeah. I actually grew up with the Flanagans because they're from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so I grew up and I played for Coach Flanagan in high school. He coached me. Al was the one who got the height. Like everybody's 6 foot, 6'1". Al is legit 6'6",
6'6",
arms. Legit. I'm talking about it's amazing. I'm talking about from his growth all the way up. Mm-hmm. But I think what hurt him was when he got hurt. And now he was just coming into form towards the end. Now, like I said, if I'm gonna talk about it, I gotta talk about Al went missing a lot throughout the year, but this latter part of the season, he started to come on. I thought that Bruce Pearl should have drew more things for him instead of Wendell Green. Even though I'm a little biased because those are my guys, but when you have a dynamic wing, an athletic wing that can either draw a double team or find the right people to find, you have to allow him to be a playmaker and take that off of Green. I think
my biggest problem with Wendell Green is he is one of those that's a ball dominant player.
That's Bruce Pearl. That's Bruce Pearl for you. He gives the PGs, the keys to the entire kingdom.
But he's a pounder. He's a ball dominant player.
Think about his guards he had. The last 3 guards he had, from Will to Sharif to Jerry. Those were ball.
Like
dominant.
Jason, when you played, you were a distributor. You distributed a lot. You know what I mean? Like you were looking for people.
I'm the old PG.
There's
the new PG.
Remember,
the game has changed.
The game has changed, Brad.
The game has changed.
Brad,
I'm just bringing it up and talking about it. And Green is one of those ball dominant players.
But that's Bruce Pearl's system.
Yep,
exactly.
He wants a dominant point guard that's an extension of him to drive, draw, and kick.
But see, here's the thing too, is that while Green is the extension of him, I mean, there were multiple times where Green is having to get the instruction from Bruce versus kind of knowing what Bruce wants when he walks through. He was getting that instruction because he had to be, instructed each time going down versus, again, being somebody who understood, like a Samir Dowdy and Jared Harper. Those guys knew what Bruce wanted without having – Bruce could just roll the ball out and just go because they know they understood what it was that Bruce wanted.
Yeah, man.
Green has to be instructed every time he has the ball. He has to kind of get wrangled in, and that's the difference, basically.
Like I said, I don't think his decision making was good at all.
Yeah.
Bruce, he's always calling out plays and stuff, right? But like we all said, when you don't have shooting in space, when you don't have a good lead guard make good decisions, everything looks bad. Because now everyone, to me, they got frustrated as well. They got frustrated, and when whoever got the ball was like, you know what, I'm going to make the play. I'm going to make the play.
You're right.
Katie did that. You
want to know another thing that killed Auburn, fellas? And look, he's a great defender. I'm glad he chose Auburn, man. I loved watching him play both years he was here. But Zep Jasper,
he had zero offense, all defense.
And let me tell you something. That absolutely. Hey, when a team guards you like Russell Westbrook, all right, it's 4v5. It's 4v5.
Yeah.
Right. When they know you're not going to shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
And then when you do shoot it, you're not going to shoot it at a high percentage. All right. So
it literally was okay. So when Auburn played Mississippi State, Mississippi State couldn't hit the broad side of the barn anywhere from a mid-range shot out.
Yep.
Auburn, all they did was pack the paint. They packed the paint.
That was Mississippi State.
I get that. What we're saying is that Auburn didn't have to defend, didn't have to stretch their defense out with them. When Zep Jasper was in the game, if he had the ball, they could go and defend the other four guys, and they could let Zep walk right in if they wanted to. But once you lure him in, then you can trap him. So it was he wasn't going to hit the shot from outside, at least not at a high enough clip that they were, where they needed to go out and actually defend them. They'd let him take that shot all day. There was a point in that Mississippi State game that, as an Auburn fan, I'm yelling at the TV, just saying, don't worry about them out there. Let them shoot that. Who cares? They're not going to hit it. Don't stretch your defense out to them. Let them come to you because they can't do anything. That's what all the other defenses were doing against Zep. So
that's the game. That's the game that look, we won the basketball game, but Mississippi State gave everybody the blueprint on how to defend Auburn. Okay.
Correct.
And what did they do in the second half? Mississippi State trapped Wendell Green Jr. as soon as he come across the timeline.
Right. And that's what A&M did immediately.
Immediately. They gave them the blueprint. Buzz Williams said, "Hey, look, watch this." All right.
Yeah.
Because guess what? What does Texas A&M have? What does Mississippi State have? They have 6'3", 6'4" guards. Right?
Length at the guard position.
And when Wendell, who is 5'10", all right, he steps across, he picks up his dribble, he's toast. It's done. There's nothing you can do.
You can't pick up your dribble if you're a point guard, man. You just can't do it.
It's just that was the blueprint, man. And so I know we got one bad man coming, not this year, but next in the 24 class, and that's Mr. LeBaron Filan from Baker High School right down here in Mobile, Alabama. So I know that's going to be exciting. And he's 6'3", 6'4", and he is just one of those cats that can get to the rim. He can shoot it from outside. He can do it all. His ball handling is elite, and he basically took the school that he plays for here in Mobile. I mean, he took them to the Elite Eight this year in the state playoffs, and dude was putting up 41 a game.
Tried to get him on my team.
Yeah,
we'll
he's AAU. Yeah.
We'll see him this weekend in Memphis. I will see him. this
Yeah.
weekend in Memphis. Oh my God, you're saying right.
He is a stud, man.
So where do you
But I'm
think
excited.
next year? Where do you think Auburn basketball will be next year as far as SEC rankings? Are they going to be middle of the pack? Do you think they'll be, what's your guess?
Man, right now, because right now I have no idea, because they're saying that Wendell Green Jr. could possibly leave. He could possibly hit the portal. They're saying that KD Johnson is up in the air, and you're just going to have a complete overhaul. It looks like with is Flanagan going to go pro? I think Flan might take that step, because last year he went to the NBA draft process. He played in the little summer league deal, got his feet wet. He averaged about 15, 16 points a game in that little process. The scouts loved him. And so I think Flan just might go pro. So Auburn might have a complete overhaul on the roster. And that is my point of Bruce Pearl having to hit the portal. He's going to have to hit it hard. He's going to have to bring in elite shooters. And right now, it's just up in the air, man. Like, I hope some of these guys stay. But then again, I'm excited to see what Bruce gets out of the portal, because if you can bring in some shooters,
maybe he goes after Caleb Love.
Look, I'll be honest with you. I know the Caleb Love hype is real, but there was a distraction at UNC this year for a reason. And him and RJ Davis, they said that the locker room problems and everything.
The locker room, from everything I hear, the locker room was the issue.
Yeah. And so, I know he put on that great March Madness run. And I was in New Orleans last year to watch the national championship game. And he's a hell of a player, but something was going on at UNC this year, and I don't know if Auburn is the place for Caleb Love. I think him being a Midwestern guy, I could see him at a place like Kansas State, or even if he wants to play in the SEC, I could see him at a place like Missouri. I think Missouri would be a really good place for him.
It would.
I mean, I think he would fit well there.
Right.
So
it would be. I actually heard Missouri might be going after him yesterday, I think, actually. But I just wanted to kind of get your take on it. And then if you guys are ready, we'll switch to some spring football talk. I'm kind of interested in some spring football talk with Auburn. Yeah. We got Hugh Freeze there now, new Auburn coach.
I got one quick question. What's it like to see the head coach recruit? Something that you hadn't seen in the last 2 years, right?
You know what? I'll be straight up honest with you guys, real quick, off the top of the dome. That clown that we had as head football coach before Hugh, and look, I'm not gonna go lightly on him. He was a clown, okay, and the things that come out of him in the locker room, and the way he talked to players and the way he treated them. And, one thing that I think we really looked past was we had a player come out last year, all right, Kobe Hudson, our leading receiver. And he said, hey, I'm going into the transfer portal. And we're sitting here going, like, why are you going to the transfer portal, man? Like, you are a leading receiver, all right, and you're just going to up and leave. So, of course, what does a fan base do? They get in there and they say, oh, he quit on the team and blase, and all that,
Right.
But we find out that Kobe Hudson comes out, a couple of days later, and he says, look, man, where I'm from the South, all right? And this dude, he's from Idaho, all right? And he doesn't know how to talk to me, all right? He doesn't respect me, all right? And from where I'm from, we don't talk to people like that. And that's not how we handle business.
Right.
And so from there on, I backed up and I said, you know what? Maybe this guy, there is something going on in the locker room. And then this year, it happens with Landon King, okay?
Yeah.
I was at the Penn State game this year, all right? Landon King makes one of the top 10 college football catches that I've ever seen.
Right.
And goes up and gets it one-handed, tucks it away, and gets taken off the field and doesn't play another down the rest of the game.
I mean,
And
he
so,
had one of the touchdowns or 2-point conversions, whatever was going on in the Bama game as well. He had one of those late grabs. Again, I think it was a one-handed grab. He grabs it kind of back here.
Yeah.
And I think he did it even in the spring game. I think he
did
one of those.
He did.
I was there, and I'm pretty certain I saw him grab, a one-handed grab. He's one of those guys that just seemed to be able to snatch it out of the air, no matter where it was.
He's a freak too. Okay, right. He's a freak of nature, and he comes out a week later and he says, "Hey, guess what? I'm going to save a year of eligibility, and I'm going to enter my name into the transfer portal, and I'm going to redshirt." All right, so all of a sudden I'm like, "Well, here we go again." Here's another talented wideout that is up and leaving. Like, what's going on? And you see coaches leave, like a Derek Mason, who was there for 1 year, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Hey, I'm out. All right, I'm going to take a pay cut."
He just up and left quickly.
That one I always thought was a planned something, and it still doesn't look good. But I always felt like that one was planned.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mike Bobo, all right, he comes out and he says, "Hey, I'm going back to Georgia," and then the stories of the recruiting start coming out. And when I hear a head coach pulls up into a player's driveway and looks at the assistant coach and says, "Hey, go inside the house and do what you got to do," and the offensive coordinator turns and looks at him and says, "Nah, man, that's not how it works." And I started telling people, I said, the more I think about it, at Boise State, the man didn't have to recruit.
Yeah, Boise State sold itself.
If
you were in Idaho,
you're going to get what you're going to get.
You get all the best players.
Mm-hmm. And guess what? All the guys who didn't go to USC, Oregon, Washington, guess where they went? They went to Boise State. So he didn't have to go out on the road and recruit. Right? And I think he got swallowed up in this conference. And so you move.
Well, that's forward, pretty easy to do in the SEC, I would think.
Especially with a guy who doesn't have any ties.
Right.
You're not showing up to
well, and he'd never coached any big time football ever before.
No.
So that's like saying when you don't have any time, when you don't have any.
Because even at Arkansas State, he's still the big dog as far as in that area. If you're not going to Arkansas, you're not going to Texas. I mean, you're in that area. That's a one and done type. Hey, let's go to Arkansas State and transfer out, or Arkansas State was getting all the players that had some sort of problem at some other school, and they were coming into Arkansas State, and Arkansas State was winning with.
You're exactly right.
It's kind of like what Jacksonville State is here in the state of Alabama. There was a bunch of players that would leave, like Georgia. You had like Crowell and some of those guys that left Georgia, and they would play at Jacksonville State, and Jacksonville State would win all these all these football games and even some titles because of, again, they were getting up these players. You didn't have to recruit. Now, I'm not saying that Jacksonville State coaches couldn't recruit, because that's where you saw the UAB coach come from. So, I mean, those guys were playing for the UAB coach. So it's not or the former UAB coach. So
Jay with
it's one of those that So it's that's a little different situation, but it's kind of sort of similar. You didn't have to go get those guys. But at the same time, I mean, the one at Jacksonville State was actually going out and doing all the legwork for the rest of the team. Whereas, Harsin maybe didn't have to, and didn't feel like he had to. And then, so when he's doing that job, the Boise State job, and then comes here, now he has to fight tooth and nail to get every recruit. And he didn't do that. And it absolutely showed 100% on the field, off the field, everything. And so I mean,
so my biggest question with this is so Hugh Freeze was a little controversial hire and everything, and so how is spring football going with Auburn? And has some of that controversy after the hire? No, I mean, I'm not real sure. I don't know.
I'll be straight up with you. This is just me. There was never any controversy because, in my opinion, everybody deserves a second chance.
I agree with that 100%. But overall, there has been a little controversy over it.
Yeah, what he did was wrong. It was wrong. But like I tell people, this is just straight up from me. This is how I feel with it. He made a mistake. He had to sit down and look his wife and his children in their eyes, and he had to ask for an apology. He had to ask for forgiveness. And if his wife and his children said, "We forgive you," that's it. It's a moot point. It's what he did. He went to Liberty and he served his 8 years, and he put it behind him in the past, and he deserves a second chance. I think a lot of the fan base at first, I think they were upset. I think a lot of the fan base also wanted Cadillac Williams for what he did at the end of the season. I think he picked up a lot of momentum, and
he did.
Just my take. I think he is Auburn's head coach after.
And then right before that, you had all the Lane Kiffin news right before all that as well. So
what was funny was the back and forth between Auburn Twitter and Ole Miss Twitter with the Lane Kiffin. That was hilarious.
Yeah, you had all that come out. You had all that for about, and then all of a sudden that went away, and 2 days later they hired Hugh Freeze. So I mean that's how that went.
Lane was playing the long game. Lane was playing Auburn against Ole Miss because from what I hear, they had to get it approved because they didn't do more than 4-year contracts.
Right.
And he wanted that extra year.
Well, he also, I think with that, there's a way to kind of sort of, I mean, like you can have a rolling, extension every year, get another extension every year, get an extension. So I think he was doing something like that. But Jimmy Sexton was definitely playing it.
And I'm going to tell you one thing about the Hugh Freeze situation. The reason why they're not saying too much is because Bobby Petrino is back in the SEC, and Chris Beard is in the SEC.
Yep.
And I'm an Ole Miss guy, and like he just said, what he did was what he did. Who are we to judge? He served his time. He went and put in some more work.
Yep. So is Auburn brass completely behind Hugh Freeze? Because
I watched this. Auburn, yes, I'm gonna tell you why.
But Auburn brass has not been behind like some of their decisions over the last several years.
But this is different. This one, I think they were.
I'm gonna tell you my opinion, and I'm gonna get out the way. He hired Cadillac Williams and put him in the right position.
He did. He actually kept Cadillac, and it was a great decision.
He elevated him, and he knows the people around there wanted Cadillac to have the job. He didn't get it.
That was a great decision.
Keep that. So
absolutely,
those were the things he got the fan base behind him. And let me digress for the Auburn guys.
Look, I'll be 100% honest with you guys. Like I said just a minute ago, I think whenever he hangs it up at Auburn, I don't know how it's going to go down, but whenever he hangs it up, I think Cadillac Williams is the next head football coach for the Auburn Tigers. I honestly believe that. And as far as the fan base, one thing it took for Auburn fans to completely forget about the whole hiring of Hugh Freeze is when Hugh immediately stepped off the plane and he started recruiting. He got in an SUV with Cadillac Williams and Trevon Reed, and they made a point from right there. He said, "We will travel to every high school in the state of Alabama," and they did it. And that right there, for you to see a coach put in the effort, and for now, look, they just got the number one running back in the state from Andalusia, Alabama, Fat Burnett, and he's a 4-star, and so you're getting top 150 guys, and so what the recruiting class for 24 I think it sits at like number 19 right now, 18, 19, somewhere in there. So we were at 62nd in the 23rd in the 2023 class before he got there. And I can tell you this: if, in my opinion, they should have fired Harsin at right after. I'll be honest with you, in the middle of the Penn State game. If I'd have been the athletic director, he wouldn't have finished coaching the Penn State game. And that is just my opinion. But Hugh, man,
that was the third game of the season, wasn't it?
Absolutely. And you get run off the field by 29 points in Jordan-Hare Stadium. That should never happen.
I agree with you.
Against the team who in the Big Ten, and they're constantly losing to Ohio State and Michigan and getting the doors blown off of them. It was embarrassing. So, I just – with Hugh, man, I honestly believe he deserves a second chance, and I'm glad he got the job. And look, I'll be honest with you right here. If you're one of those people you're still mad about Hugh being the head football coach, when Auburn's 9-1, 10-1, 9-2,
they won't. Then
exactly. Don't come to Jordan-Hare Stadium. Don't come to Jordan-Hare Stadium and screaming War Eagle and everything.
If you get them to 9-1, Auburn fans won't care.
So my only issue, and I was one of those that was kind of against Hugh, and mine was never like the off the field stuff was obviously looked really bad. Mm-hmm. My issue was at Ole Miss, he never had a true inside run game. It seemed like, and that was where I felt like if he develops that or he goes and changes to that, then you got
but keeping Cadillac Williams is a good sign.
But they, with all the offensive linemen that he had at Ole Miss and the running backs that he had at Ole Miss, it just seemed like they never went. When they needed the tough yards, when they needed that 4th and 1 or whatever, that they couldn't get it.
Well, I
just want to make sure that he was going to do that.
You got to remember. You got to remember. He's a spread offensive type of coach.
So is Gus.
And so, but I understand that. But he got the number one lineman to protect. He never did get that star quarterback. Remember, he signed the number one offensive tackle, the number one defensive tackle, the number one wide receiver, and then he had a host of people around that defense. Now, I'm not gonna say how he got it, but he got it done, right?
It's legal now. It wasn't then.
Yeah. That was my issue.
They're not gonna talk about it.
Now.
But he got it done. But if you think about it, you're not gonna line up and play smash mouth football against Georgia.
You don't have to play smash mouth. You just need to be able to do it when you need to do it.
If you can stay in front of, if you can be 2nd and 6, second and 5. Then you can sneak a run in. He's going to sneak a run in. But, man, you got to pass. You got to pass.
I get it.
You got
to. Well, keeping Cadillac Williams is a pretty good sign, if you ask me, when it comes to the run game.
And he destroyed the portal for the offensive line, which is probably
something
the
that
biggest weakness.
Yes.
Yes. That was Auburn's biggest weakness.
He's got a question here. I put it up on the screen for you about the scheduling, the 3 guaranteed teams, the 3 rival teams, or whatever you want with SEC. This would be after next year.
Again, they haven't actually gotten it completely settled in stone.
No, they haven't really said it yet.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure there's at least 2 opponents that Auburn knows for sure. Probably.
Absolutely.
That's going to it's Georgia
and that's going to be Bama and Georgia.
Yeah.
Those are 2 opponents that Auburn knows for sure out of the 3. The third one is kind of up in the air. Some people say Vandy. It's kind of up in the air. The third opponent is what I would say.
I hope they don't.
Isn't that right, Blake?
That is correct. So, look, I'm a fan of this, and I've said it multiple times. I'm a fan of Oklahoma and Texas joining the conference. Not only in football, I'm a fan of it in baseball. I'm a fan of it in basketball. I mean, I think the SEC, let's be honest, they were already the greatest conference from top to bottom We all know
Yeah,
that.
but you go sport by sport by sport when you get them in. I mean, you can talk about softball, women's basketball. You can just go down like sport by sport by sport. Gymnastics.
That's right.
Track
Golf.
and field.
Golf,
I mean, you
right.
can you
Did
can
I
just
hear
go
golf?
down the list.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
You can go down the
even though it's
list and
Alabama.
yeah.
Hey, and the thing with Auburn in the 3 games, like you can't leave Alabama and Georgia off the list, or we have to play them. We know they're must haves. And in my opinion, I don't want to see Vanderbilt. I know a lot of Auburn fans say, "Oh, well, I want to."
That's
see
what I told
Braves.
John. We had this discussion the other day, and John was like, "Well, they're just and I said, "Why Vandy? I mean, it's just not like Auburn don't play."
I mean,
Vandy.
I think we were
That's
getting
not
leftovers with Vandy is what happened.
I mean, I don't understand the whole Vandy thing.
You give me either Mississippi State or Ole Miss. One of those two.
I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
older contention that's going that's saying, what about Florida, and have the entire old Amen team, because that was the older contention was going after that. Just like with Bama, the older contention is looking at Mississippi State, or the younger ones were looking at LSU as being the third one for them, because they have us, and then they would have Tennessee. And again, the older crowd for them was saying, "Hey, Mississippi State's right down the road.
Yeah.
We should be playing them." And then, the newer crowd that wants to keep the rivalry with having Saban, a former LSU coach, get LSU, and then anything else after that is kind of a split between you're splitting between small.
I told the guys the other
factions
day,
after
I
that.
don't like the whole Vandy thing on the scheduling. I don't think Auburn and Vandy should be on the schedule together and play every year. It's just like I just don't agree with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily something that you would want to see.
You know who holds the all-time record in that series? Vanderbilt.
Are you talking Auburn and Vandy football?
I am.
That's
Vanderbilt.
sad.
Vanderbilt. Now they've only played 19
like 3 or 4
times.
Yeah, something like that.
And it was like way back.
Well, that's why I said, why on earth would Auburn and Vandy be considered a rival game? I mean, that's horse crap, if you ask me.
I mean, why is Ole Miss and Vanderbilt a rivalry game? I don't know.
It's not.
But it happens.
It's not.
It's not.
But that was their East-West, like the crossover game was.
Yeah.
Man,
South Carolina and Texas A&M. Is that a rivalry game?
Somebody fill me in, because I don't claim to be the smartest guy in the world. But why is the SEC even considering doing something like this? I'm still at loss. Why can't we just realign the conference? And then
they're not, Jason. They're not keeping the East and West, man. Me and you, we had this discussion on a show one night. They're doing away with it.
Yeah.
So here, this is the best thing that I can lay it out.
I don't like it either, but
so last year, all right, LSU wins the West. Okay, so they were 9-3. They had 2 SEC losses with a loss to Florida State to open up the year. All right, so they play in the SEC championship, and you had what?
You had Auburn 10-2. I mean, Alabama was 10-2.
You had Alabama 10-2. They lost to LSU, so LSU went over them. But then over in the East, you had Georgia, and then you had Tennessee right there. That was the other 2-loss team. So I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to just blow the divisions up, and like basketball, you put everybody in the same division, top to bottom, and the best 2 teams, the top 2 teams, play in the SEC championship.
If you really think about it, I mean, when you're talking about the last 15 years, I mean, the West had the top 2 best teams.
I mean, that's true.
Until Kirby got Georgia going, there wasn't anybody in the East that was worth a damn.
Yeah,
Blake, what you just said though about lining up the teams, okay?
Mhm.
So what happens when you have 3 2-loss teams that are tied in that second spot, okay?
They'll have a
Because
tiebreaker system.
because they don't play each other, because they won't necessarily play each other every year. What happens if you have 3 teams that haven't played each other? How do you break the tie?
Most likely.
What do you do? What do you BCS point system and break the tie? I mean, how do you break the tie? I don't understand.
Coin flip.
Yeah, it'll be common opponent, and the Big 12 does it right now, and I love
just
it.
don't
for
like
the Big
it.
12.
It'll be common opponent. It'll be your victories against, kind of weighted victories against teams that you played that were outside the conference too. I mean, you'll see that too. So like you're playing.
I don't know. I'm just not a big fan of that. When you got tied teams like that, and and then you got teams that get left out that don't even get a shot that were right there too the whole season.
And what happens when we had divisions and you had just a loaded West?
At
Arkansas,
least the
Auburn,
divisions,
LSU,
all the
Alabama,
teams played each other.
Only one team got to go.
Y'all want to know?
But in a division, all the teams played each other.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that Auburn, Alabama, LSU, and Arkansas, 2 of those teams should have played each other for the championship because the Georgias and the Tennessees and the Floridas sucked. And you had teams like South Carolina or Missouri or a really, really crappy Florida team, make the championship. So that's what it is. So.
My thing with why they can't restructure the divisions is so you have Oklahoma and Texas coming in. So obviously they would be in the Western Division. So who are you going to put in the East? Alabama and Auburn? Because geographically, that's the way it lines up.
I already said it. Yes, that's who I would put.
You'd have to put Alabama and Auburn in the East.
You would put Alabama and Auburn in the East.
Missouri over there in the West.
And you would take Missouri out, put them in the West, and put Alabama and Auburn in. That's how you do it.
Absolutely. So here's my thing with that. And I was told this by my grandpa back in 2004 before he passed away. He told me, he said, son, let me tell you something. He said, the Southeastern Conference is ran by 6 teams in the football side of things. All right. It's ran by 6 teams, 6 programs. That's Alabama, LSU, and Auburn. And then on the East, it is Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. All right. So if you take Alabama and Auburn and move them into the East, what do you have? You have Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, Alabama, Auburn. You have 5 of the 6 teams that run the conference in football in one division. And I think the SEC saw that.
That would be the old school SEC division.
But it's cannibalism. They would eat each other alive, and the SEC can't have that. They just can't. Like they would all 5 be over there in that Eastern Division, and they would just beat up on each other. And the SEC is smart. They know what they're doing.
That's true.
Slav and Sankey are very, very smart individuals. So I mean,
they know what they're doing.
Slav was before he passed, and Sankey now. So
and let me tell you this: with Chris Beard getting the job for Ole Miss basketball, all right, everybody's like, oh well, what he went through at Texas and everything. All right, like I said, the SEC is smart. They know what they're doing. All right, the SEC's goal is to take over as the best basketball conference in America, and they're slowly trending that way. All right. And so you add a Chris Beard at Ole Miss, and
you got Gates at Missouri, and
And so the SEC is smart. They know what they're doing. They're not going to knock themselves out of contention.
So, right.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly.
So I still didn't really. So have you seen or heard anything about spring football that's going on right now?
So
and how things are going or progressing for the next year?
I had Ike Jones from the War Report. He come on the podcast the other night, and we really broke down spring football, what the media gets to see. They get to see about a 20 to 25 minute window. And Ike
Wait, that much? I thought it was less.
Hugh's a little lenient.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and he also let them. It can't be recorded, but they get to talk to a couple of players. You can't really write anything down. You can't record anything or anything like that.
Right.
But he said that Hugh was a little lenient on some of that stuff. So they get a window that they get to go watch, and
Okay.
Mike G come back and one of the scrimmages and said he pointed out at the quarterback position, which is a huge problem
Question.
at
Yeah.
Auburn right now.
Right.
And he said that Holden Garner has taken a step as possibly quarterback one. He said that TJ Finley and the team has responded to him and him not transferring after everything that he went through last year. And Robbie is a little beat up right now. Shoulder
Right.
is
Yeah.
aggravated. He's been having to sit out a couple of practices. And out at the receiver position, I asked Ike the other night, I said, that is one of the biggest concerns with me is at receiver, because I've always felt the past couple of years Auburn hasn't had that go-to guy at receiver. And that was one of the biggest things with Hugh, man, is you look at his track record at receiver at Ole Miss. And, you can just go down the list of all the dogs that he's put in the NFL while he was at Ole Miss. And so you got guys like Omari Kelly and Jay Fair and Javarius Johnson and Camden Brown looks to be that big physical presence on the outside. He's just a young cat, but they're really hoping that he blossoms into that 50-50 guy that can get down the field and go up and get the football. And we all know the 27 in the backfield, Jarquez Hunter, is a freak of nature, and we know what he's going to bring. I think the offense has a little ways to go. Look, they're learning a brand new system. Okay, so when you hear people come out, like the lady for ESPN come out today and said that their receivers look sloppy and everything, they're learning a brand new system, and they've had 9 practices. Okay, so let's.
I mean, I would expect in the fall and August and whatnot that you may have it, down a little bit better, because they will have, while coaches aren't out there, they will have the summer to run through a lot and get the quarterbacks acclimated with receivers and anything like that, where they can do their side work without, coaches being there. So
yeah,
he was talking
and
about Robbie not being healthy. Can Robbie stay healthy?
Man,
good question.
Can Robbie get his completion percentage over 50%? I think. Look, he's a freak athlete, and do I think he's going to start at quarterback?
Probably.
I'm not sure if that's the way. You think he starts at quarterback? Because I'm not sure if that's what Philip Montgomery wants. I think he is more of a push the ball down the field, RPO guy, and I know he wants to take shots, and I'm not sure if that fits Robbie Ashford's game. But Robbie took shots last year.
I haven't fully transitioned in my head with the way Auburn's offense is actually going to look like, because they have hired Hugh Freeze now. Like Auburn, this is a total, like Auburn's not, they normally don't play that way too awful much. They don't throw it down the field. They're more of a pound you back, run down the throat type team. And I haven't really gathered, my mind to what they're really going to look like yet. Ashford, for everything that Auburn has always been, I would think would be, and has the skills left to do it, I would think a good quarterback for Auburn now. With that said, now that they've hired Hugh Freeze and you're talking about a spread offense, then maybe not.
I mean, the only hope that Robbie Ashford has is Malik Willis at Liberty, and that's really, if you can turn him into somebody that could, and honestly, Malik probably was still that player at Auburn, but Bo, there were a lot of other things that were coming along with Bo at that time. Whether
Daddy.
it was
Daddy.
So you had Patrick,
Daddy.
and you had, so you had the politics with Bo,
right?
My dad played at Auburn, so
you had somebody that probably could still throw it better than Malik at that time, or had the look of it and the hype, and again, the politics behind it to take over, and that was what kind of killed Malik at Auburn. So, I don't know if Malik was, as poor of a passer as what Robbie has really shown to be. I mean, he just can't. He cannot consistently hit that mid-range pass.
Because he's a baseball player.
Correct. It's kind of like what Gabe Rose looked like when he was out there throwing, and what Jesus, I've completely forgot his last name. Sullivan. Sullivan.
Yeah.
When he backed up Jason Campbell, he was a baseball player as well. So yeah.
And look, Robbie, man, he's a heck of an athlete. I'm not saying he's going to just come in and sit the bench, all right? Because they're going to put him on the field. You're going to see him out there. But Auburn's going to run. They're going to run a lot of 3 and 4 wide receiver sets. They're going to. I fully believe that Montgomery wants to throw it around the field.
And I would put Robbie on the field as a receiver. Yeah. I would see what happens.
They're going to find ways to get the ball in his hands.
Yes.
And because I don't know, have any of you guys ever seen him play baseball?
I knew that I knew that we really wanted him when he was coming out of Hoover High School.
With that said, I'm going to kind of switch this to baseball as we are speaking about Robbie.
Yeah. So I knew that he was that we really wanted him as a baseball player coming out of Hoover, and I don't think Auburn football was going to allow him to play baseball. I don't know exactly what the deal was, and that Oregon was going to let him play, so he went to Oregon. And then, of course, obviously everything kind of changed over at Oregon, so he came back to Auburn and then elected not to play baseball, I guess. So
absolute stud. All right. I mean, the dude can absolutely get after it on the diamond. He is a freak out there playing baseball. So I know Robbie will be on the field this fall. So,
so I'm going to switch things up. We're going to run out of time if we don't. I want to make sure we get in some Auburn baseball. Baseball season is currently going on and still has 2 months to the SEC champion, the tournament for baseball. We are 2 weeks into the SEC play, and where do you think Butch Thompson's team is sitting right now, and where are they headed? Where do you think they're headed?
I think they could be headed to really big things. I think if you get a Joseph Gonzalez back, then you could very well find yourself look, I'm not going to say competing for a regular season title or anything like that, but you could find yourself as a host like you did last year for a regional. If you do get Gonzo back and you get this bullpen kind of figured out. And one thing I think that is really holding Auburn back right now is you're missing Gonzo, so you're having a Tanner Bauman having to start on the weekend, all right? And he's a relief. He's a middle relief guy. So all he's going to throw you is 2 2/3.
Right.
You might get 3 innings out of him. So you're having to eat arms in that second game of the series. And then by the time you get to game 3, you're out of arms. And that's why you see Auburn give up
17 in the 8th inning.
Fifth inning, sixth inning, seventh inning.
Which is why tonight was an amazing performance by Drew. Drew Nelson because he just threw a complete game, 7-inning game, and they got the necessary 10 runs for the 10-run rule to save every bit of those arms for today because of the fact that they threw so many in the 8th inning on Saturday. So
and guys, like, not only that, like, go back and look at the midweek. Go back and look at the midweek game. Yes, you had like John Armstrong having to come in on a Tuesday night against the Georgia Tech team and things like that, man. Like, you're having to use guys like Chase Alsop and these guys, like with Tanner, man, having to start, it really throws a wrinkle in your rotation.
Yes.
So if you can get Gonzo back, then you can have Tommy Vell on Friday, Gonzo on Saturday, and then you can fall back on the true freshman and have Crotchfeld there. And hopefully you get 4 to 5 innings out of Crotchfeld, and then you have your stable bullpen there for that game.
It really is. It's pretty
relieves
much
the
all
bullpen
about pitching, right?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
It is 100% pitching because
I mean,
is
Auburn, the Auburn's offense has been really, really good.
Right. I mean, they've gone
Offensively.
cold a couple of times, but for the most part, that offense is going to be there. But if you're going to rely on that offense, you're going to rely on 8, 9, 10 runs a game. You're not going to get that. You cannot sit there and completely rely on 8 to 10 runs. So you have to have
every single game.
Yeah. And Gonzo is that linchpin, even though he is a sinker baller pitcher. He is still the linchpin.
Is he going to get back? I mean, is he going to get back?
He's still a month out, it looks like. He's still, 3 to 4 weeks away from possibly getting back.
So that would leave 3 or 4 weekends of SEC play left. Would be all there would be, something like that.
Yeah,
they'd have to be able to kind of find their way. Like they need to sweep the 2 Mississippi schools. It is almost a must. They couldn't sweep Georgia. They got close. They were able to they were running out of pitching on
Georgia 1 inning. I mean, just demolished them.
But up until that inning, they had brought it. They were down. I mean, they were fighting again because of the fact that they have lack of arms and that they were having to throw what they were throwing on that final game. They were having to play catch up on Saturday, and they nearly did it, but the arms ran out.
Speaking of pitching, that 1 inning was almost like they had T-ball. They were sitting on the tee, and they just was.
Well, it ended up being something like this. It started out with the inning with the umpire squeezing the plate. So they were the pitchers were nibbling on the corners. They were living on the corners, and they were 50-50 whether they were balls or strikes. Okay. Then so he's walking players, and anytime that a pitch did get center cut, it was hit. When it was hit, the defense, it was getting just past the shortstop, just past the second baseman, diving for the ball. I mean, they were just a step off of being where they were. I mean, you're looking, again, baseball is a game of inches. This is exactly what it was. A fraction of an inch on the pitches, and you may have a 1-2-3 inning, and there is nothing wrong. Auburn comes up to bat at the bottom of the 8th. They take a lead. Boom. Game over. And Auburn wins and sweeps. But they were fraction of an inch off the plate. They were a fraction of an inch beyond the shortstop and the second base gloves. And then all of a sudden, now the pitchers are missing heavily out of the zone. They were throwing everything because now they're throwing more pitches than they need to. And it's like you're seeing just fatigue up there, and they're throwing, now 5-6 inches off the plate. And then they would center cut one, and then it's out of here. Come on. Grand slam, 3-run bomb, whatever. There it goes. And there goes there goes the game right at that point. And you also have the one play at the plate that could have reduced all this. And that play was absolutely atrocious. I don't understand the call. It was an obstruction play. They basically just said that the catcher was interfering with the path to the plate before he had the ball, but the ball took him into the baseline when he went to go get it, it took him into the baseline, and he was still getting the ball while the runner was about 3 feet out away from him. So he had the ball when the runner got there. So therefore, he is not obstructing. Again, the call goes against Auburn, and the floodwaters opened up, and that's when everything went south in a hurry.
Well, so John,
that's what you're looking at.
You said you think that they would have to sweep Ole Miss and Mississippi State. So, but if you look at the West, just hang on a minute. So if you look at the West standings, you know, the top 2 teams are 4-2, and you guys are at 2-4, and Auburn's sitting at 2-4. So you're only 2 games out.
I'm not looking at the standings in the West, because what you really need to get is you need to be above 500 in the SEC. You need to get a magical 15 wins. If you can't get to 15 wins, you are going.
You're only one game below 500. You're 2-4. So you won one more of those games. You're 3-3.
Correct. And again, looking at that Georgia game as to why, like, we needed to sweep again, what Blake was talking about, needing Gonzalez would have kind of changed the dynamic of the bullpen.
It would have.
It may have helped that happen. And then you've got to go in. You've got to sweep the 2 Mississippi schools. That gets you 6 wins right there. Then you need to take 2 out of 3 from Bama. That's 8 plus your 2 that you have. That's 10. And then if you're getting 1 from Florida, 1 from LSU, 1 from South Carolina, then you're at 13. If you can get to 14, you've got a prayer of making a regional. You get to 15, and you're pretty much a lock for a regional.
Right.
And then anything above 500, and you're fighting for hosting at that point. So it is that small of a window, but you've got to get up there, and the only way to do it is with the Mississippi schools being as bad as they are, Auburn has to take advantage of it, because Mississippi State does not have any pitching. Auburn must absolutely smash them.
That's a
offensively. They have to do it. And Ole Miss. I think
they at least have to series at the least. I mean, but
you
sweeping
can't just
them
win
is something that they need.
Series, you can't just win those series. You have to go and sweep them. That's
but they could go 5-1, maybe not 4-2, but they could go 5-1 and be all right. I think.
Yeah, well, then you're relying that they've got to win the series against LSU, Florida, South Carolina, which are teams that are going to absolutely have the pitching to beat Auburn.
Yep.
And South Carolina has what leads the country in home runs.
They smash
the
they can. Yeah. And Florida can too.
You have Florida, who has a pitcher that can absolutely rate.
Yeah.
So not only is he going to crush you on the mound when he's throwing on Sunday, he's also going to be dropping bombs on you.
Yeah.
Just a couple of days ago, he had 17 home runs in 20.
Yeah.
The Florida guy. I don't know how you pronounce his last name.
Caglione. Jacques Caglione. Yep. That's his name.
Caglione?
Yes. Jacques Caglione.
Okay. I don't know how you pronounce his last name, so.
I just told you.
With pronunciation, so. Blake, I got you, man. Blake Lane, I can't mess that up.
Listen to the product.
Nah, that's an easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't mess that up, man.
But anyway, so the pathway for baseball is they need to sweep the Mississippi schools.
Yep.
It's a must do. They need to do that.
Yep.
You know, they didn't need to lose all 3 against Arkansas. They needed to take at least 1 from Arkansas. Sweep Georgia.
They did need to at least take 1 from Arkansas. I would agree with that for sure.
Yeah, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And you want to know why they didn't? Because good pitching shuts good hitting down.
Right.
And
they had better pitching.
Didn't travel. They had better pitching.
Yeah.
And you
their
look
Saturday guy had thrown a complete game the week before, and then shut Auburn down pretty much for the most part. On that day.
It's all about pitching, man. So Auburn's just got to get healthy. They got to get healthy, and the Auburn have a dilemma they got to come to in the lineup.
Yeah.
All right,
Yep.
you got to figure out, can Nate LaRue figure things out at the plate? I don't know if he can. And I tell people this: look, he is probably the best defensive catcher in the SEC, but that's only going to take
even in
you,
the country. He's
that is
damn good.
That is true, but that's only going to take you so far.
Correct.
All right. And you have other guys in the lineup like a Cooper McMurray that is back healthy, and he showed what he can do tonight. And you have guys like Ike Irish. You can't take him out of the lineup, so you're going to put him at DH.
You have to invent ways to get him in the lineup.
Yeah, and Chris Stanfield, he's come on as a freshman, and he showed us what he can do. So what are you going to sit him, because he's hitting better than Nate LaRue? So with Ike being able to catch, my only thing with that is Ike can't catch every single game, because
you lose him at the plate.
Exactly, you're going to lose him at the plate.
His legs will have fatigue. It's the same thing. I mean, like, look, we didn't catch who was the who am I going with? It's Williams, the last name Williams, the guy that we had the last couple of years. You remember who I'm talking about?
Are you talking about the right fielder?
Yes.
Stephen Williams?
Stephen Williams, there you go. Because he came in as a catcher. And Auburn already had catching at the time. So they put him out in the outfield, put him out in right field. And then by the end of his career, he was catching, but he wasn't catching every day. Couldn't, because otherwise you were going to lose his legs. You were going to lose his bat. And Ike Irish is the number 39 freshman overall, coming in. And, a lot of people thought he was going to go to the draft, and, he made it on campus, coming from Michigan. And he has been tearing it up. Actually hit his second home run tonight. He's one right now. He's Juan Soto without the power. Is it you I've been talking with that's been discussing that?
Absolutely.
Show me the side-by-side photos, and I went and pulled Juan Soto photos and
it's freaky,
Irish photos and said, here they are.
It's freaky.
And they look exactly like, and he is Juan Soto without Juan Soto's power yet. Because he's starting to get it, because he's hit 1, he's now hit 2. He will probably have about 8 before the season's over. I think he's going to be around an 8 home run. Maybe he gets 10. If they get to go into postseason, he may get 10 at that point. But I think he's going to end up with about 8. And I think next year, in the next 2 years, he's going to have, pretty decent power numbers you're going to start seeing. But right now, he's hitting for average. He is willing to go the other way. He is going from baseline to baseline here. He really primarily is from gap to gap. But there are several times where he's going right down the third baseline as a right-handed or as a left-handed hitter. And so that is that. And again, it looks exactly like Juan Soto when he does it. That swing is uncanny. I wasn't even thinking about it until you said it. And then I went and looked at it, and I went, oh my God, you're right.
It's weird. It's weird. It's weird.
So,
but guys, look, if you're an Auburn baseball fan, you just got to be patient, for real. It comes down to being patient. You got to see how things play out here. You need to take 1 from Florida. I'm not going to sit here and say you need to go take 2, because that's just kind of being unrealistic.
Is that who they play this weekend?
That is at Florida.
In Gainesville. But here's the thing. I've seen them go to Gainesville and take a team, take 2 from Florida that was much better than the Auburn team that went down there. So it's not like it can't happen. It's just unlikely and not something that you need to be like hanging your hat on.
You're going to have better pitching, because Florida's been hitting. So.
Oh yeah. And that's why I've been saying you've got to sweep the teams that are bad. You've got to go in and take care of business, or otherwise you're not going to have the win total at the end of the season that you need in order to get in. You'll be relying way too heavy on the SEC tournament, which Auburn hasn't really shown that they can win those games, because they'll come in as a, having to play the play-in game, or they're 2 and done if they actually make it beyond that 4-team little play-in area. So, I mean,
100%. Yeah, but I think they're set up. They're set up okay, and it all really just depends on Gonzo, man. So I think Auburn's in a great spot with the baseball program, so you just be patient. Just be patient right now. Don't hit the panic button as a fan and get on social media and start flying off the handle.
When they gave up 17 in one inning, I was just when they gave up 17, I just was like, well, that's 2016 Florida the Georgia game, right?
Yeah,
I think it was a 24-7 game, and I was like, well, that went bad. That went south really quickly.
That's a fact.
Well, Blake, we appreciate you being with us tonight. I'm going to kind of wrap the show up here. We digging into all things Auburn. So with Blake Lane from the UpTempo podcast, I'll let you plug anything else that you got. And if you want to plug anything else, I know BellyUpSports, I think your podcast is. So if there's anything else you want to, plug or whatever, do that now.
Yeah, if you can, just go over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify and give us a 5-star review. Go check us out over there. And if you could, go check out the YouTube page at the UpTempo Podcast. We just recently kind of moved over there, and we've put up about 20, 25 episodes on YouTube, and we're really starting to kick things off, man. And I'll tell you what, I do cover a lot of Auburn. I recap every baseball, basketball, football game, but I also bring on the Auburn beat. I bring on the Auburn beat. The War Report, they've been on twice. Those guys, they're inside the scrimmages and stuff, and they get to talk to the guys behind the scenes, and they get to ask Hugh Freeze great questions. And then I will be going around to other schools in the SEC and getting their beat writers on to talk a little football from them. And I even go outside of the SEC to Notre Dame, Ohio State, Miami, USC, and I get those guys from the beat out there, and I get them on the show. So just give us a follow, go subscribe to the YouTube channel, and guys, I really appreciate you having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, we appreciate you being with us, Blake. So everybody that that's watching our show, we encourage you to go on and check out the UpTempo podcast.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, man. Blake, have a good night.
Y'all too.
All right.
Enjoy it.
Well, that was fun, guys.
We get in here. Slide over.
Yeah, that was fun.
It was.
Yeah, we appreciate Blake being on with us. I've got to close this up pretty quick, so I'm going to try to get to a couple of things here real quick. I've got a prize picks. You can double your money, initial deposit. If you go to prizepicks.com, you can do CSCast for a promo code. That'll help us out, and you can double your money up to $100. So if you put down 50, you'll get 100 to play with. Put down 100, you get 200 to play with. It's a daily fantasy sports, and you can help us out here at College SportsCast by doing CSCast at the same time of doubling your money. So we ask that you do that. And then we've got the Home for Our Troops. Home for Our Troops